Rose Besser is 15. She lives in Bedzin, Poland, standing at the roadside with a worn basket of bread held tight against her. She's not a criminal. She's a teenager who's hungry, nervous, and desperate to bring something home so her family can survive one more day. But in Nazi-occupied Poland, even trying to survive could be treated like a crime. When a German policeman spots her making a quiet trade on the streets, he doesn't see a hungry child. He sees someone breaking their rules. Rose is seized and pulled through the streets, her small screams swallowed up by the sound of boots on cobblestone. Windows close, faces turn away. In this world, looking too long could get you taken too. For Rose, the world she knew is gone. She's no longer a girl on a street with a basket. She's in the hands of the Gestapo now, being pulled toward a place of locked doors, echoing boots, and questions that never have the right answer. Feared across Nazi-occupied Europe, the Gestapo was the embodiment of terror. Behind their cold uniforms hid men who ruled through pain, torture, and control, destroying countless innocent lives. The Gestapo didn't start as a nightmare. It began as an idea, one that grew darker every year. Formed in 1933, just months after Adolf Hitler seized power, the Gestapo, or Geheime Staatspolizei, or Secret State Police, became the regime's silent weapon. Hermann Göring, a man obsessed with control, created it first. Later, Heinrich Himmler, the ruthless head of the SS, took command. And that's when the real terror began. They had one mission: to eliminate opposition to Hitler's rule. No courts, no warrants, no limits. They operated outside the law, free to arrest, torture, and execute anyone considered a threat. And the worst part? They didn't need proof. A whisper, a neighbor's suspicion, a wrong look, that was enough to disappear forever. What started as national security quickly became a license for unquestioned brutality. And here's where it gets even darker. The Gestapo were just hunting spies or traitors. They were building a machine of obedience. Their mission was simple: find, expose, and destroy anyone who dared to question Hitler's vision. Their enemies. Everyone. Political opponents, communists, Jews, resistance fighters, and even ordinary Germans who didn't clap loud enough at rallies, Jehovah's Witnesses, homosexuals, and anyone labeled undesirable were next on their list. They didn't need loyalty, they demanded fear. Across the Reich, people whispered in hallways, careful not to say the wrong word, because in Nazi Germany, even silence could be suspicious. The Gestapo's real weapon wasn't just violence. It was psychological terror, the constant reminder that someone, somewhere, was always listening.
Of the Holocaust. The methodical killer, the Nazi Holocaust monster.
He is directly culpable for the murder of 6 million Jews.
The Gestapo worked hand in hand with the SS, Hitler's black uniformed elite. Together, they orchestrated mass deportations of Jewish men, women, and children, loading trains to the concentration and extermination camps. Their power didn't come from weapons or numbers. It came from control, from breaking people's spirits before their bodies. Every knock on a door after midnight meant one thing: someone wasn't coming back. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Inside Gestapo prisons, women suffered the most. They didn't care about age. The young, the old, mothers, daughters, all were fair game. Interrogations weren't just questions, they were ordeals. Beatings, electrocution, mock executions, and nights without sleep, repeated until the human mind broke. But even under the weight of unimaginable pain, many women refused to give up names or secrets. Some endured days tied to chairs. Others faced the sound of boots echoing down the hall, wondering if it was their turn next. Their silence wasn't weakness, it was defiance. When we last saw Rose, her whole world was being yanked out from under her. A 15-year-old girl dragged off a street she'd walked her whole life. And the thing that doomed her wasn't treason or violence. Her crime was survival. She was arrested and thrown into a dark, damp basement, packed with other prisoners, the walls echoing with despair. Days turned into weeks of isolation, fear, and uncertainty. Then came the interrogations. Dark rooms, blinding lamps, questions barked over and over. Then the beatings, heavy blows that left her dizzy and shaking. then the food taken away, her stomach aching while the guards ate outside her door. All of this for a girl who tried to sell a loaf of bread. Miraculously, she was released on her birthday, which coincided with a Jewish holiday. Despite the trauma, she went right back to trading to keep her family alive. If you think what happened to Rose was bad, the next cases are far more horrifying. Alice van Steenberger, one of France's bravest resistance fighters, was captured by the Gestapo in August 1944 and thrown into Montluc prison in Lyon, a place already known for suffering. The Gestapo beat her so savagely that 5 of her vertebrae shattered. The pain should have broken her, but it didn't. Even as Klaus Barbie's men tore into her, demanding names, locations, anything, Alice refused to speak. For days, she endured torment most could not survive. Every scream they tried to drag from her, she buried deeper inside. Her silence shielded dozens in the French resistance. A week later, the Gestapo's hold on Lyon weakened. Barbie, convinced she'd die from her injuries, let her go. Alice emerged broken in body but unbent in will. Her spine fractured, yet her resolve untouched. Her endurance kept the resistance alive, proving that even in the darkest depths of cruelty, human courage could still eclipse the monsters who thrived on fear. Next, in the darkest corners of Nazi terror, there was a light. Irena Sendler, a quiet social worker in Warsaw who risked everything to save lives. When the Gestapo seized control of the city, she didn't cower. She fought back with courage. Irena forged false identity papers and smuggled hundreds of Jewish children out of the Warsaw ghetto, hiding them in suitcases, toolboxes, and even coffins. Each child's name was carefully written on tiny scraps of paper and buried in jars beneath an apple tree, a secret record of the lives she protected. Eventually, the Gestapo caught her. They shattered her legs and feet during brutal interrogations, smashing her body in an attempt to force her to reveal names and hideouts. But Irena never broke. She fed them false information, protecting the children and her fellow resistance members. Sentenced to death by firing squad, she was secretly spared when her comrades bribed the executioner. After the war, she devoted her life to reuniting rescued children with surviving relatives, a living symbol of hope, courage, and defiance the Gestapo could never destroy. Denise Vernet, a fearless member of the French resistance, was captured by the Gestapo because of her daring work carrying secret messages, smuggling arms, and helping coordinate resistance operations across occupied France. Her activities made her a prime target for Nazi intelligence, and when they caught her, terror began. She was thrown into a freezing, dark basement and subjected to the infamous bathtub torture. Her hands were bound, her head forced underwater until she nearly drowned. Just when she gasped her last breath, the Gestapo yanked her up, poured coffee or brandy down her throat, then pushed her under again. Hours passed in a relentless cycle of near-death and revival, her lungs burning, vision fading, body trembling. Despite the unimaginable physical and psychological torment, Denise never revealed a single name or detail about her comrades or operations. Her superior trusted her so completely, he didn't even change his identity after her arrest. Eventually, she was deported to Ravensbrück concentration camp and later freed in a Red Cross prisoner exchange, her silence having saved an entire resistance network. Renee Bornstein was just a young Jewish girl trying to escape Nazi-occupied France. Alongside a group of children and their brave resistance guide, Marianne Cohn, she attempted to cross into Switzerland, but near the border, the Gestapo intercepted them and threw them into Annemasse prison, a place of terror and relentless interrogations. Renee was dragged before Gestapo Commander Mir, a man who thrived on cruelty. He showed her the tortured body of a young boy, threatening that she would face the same fate if she didn't confess her identity. Terrified, Renee denied being Jewish, inventing a false name on the spot. Meanwhile, Marianne endured daily beatings, interrogations, and psychological torment, refusing to reveal the children's identities. Her defiance came at the ultimate cost. She was executed by the Gestapo in August 1944. Thanks to Marianne's sacrifice, Renee and the other children survived. The mayor of Annemasse later negotiated their release, sparing them from deportation. Renee's survival stands as a testament to courage, sacrifice, and the quiet heroism that often goes unseen.
We were sure that this man was Eichmann.
The Mossad agents were running a terrible personal risk in going on this operation.
The order was very simple: to capture him, to bring him to Israel alive.
The Gestapo finally fell when Nazi Germany surrendered in May 1945, but it wasn't a clean collapse. Overnight, the enforcers of terror became the hunted thousands of officers vanished into the chaos, shedding uniforms, destroying files, and slipping into post-war Europe as ordinary soldiers or civilians, hoping to escape justice. Declared a criminal organization at the Nuremberg trials, the Gestapo faced charges of mass murder, torture, and crimes against humanity. Hundreds of officers were captured, many sentenced to decades in prison, some receiving 20 years or life, depending on the severity of their crimes. Yet, far too many escaped punishment, living in hiding for years. High-profile figures like Adolf Eichmann, a chief architect of the Holocaust, were captured and executed. Eichmann hanged in Israel in 1962. Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lyon, was extradited decades later and sentenced to life imprisonment in 1987. These trials became a global moral reckoning, forcing the world to confront the horrifying cost of blind compliance, obedience, and terror. Justice was partial, but the lesson endured. Though the Gestapo may have fallen, their techniques, surveillance, bullying, and fear, never actually died. Their strategy of dominance inspired other governments. The East German Stasi transformed neighbors into spies. The KGB in the Soviet Union honed psychological tactics. And the Securitat spoke of terror in communist Romania. Still today, authoritarian governments like North Korea, where terror is the most powerful weapon, reflect traces of the Gestapo's methods. It is a terrible legacy, evidence that unchecked authority always results in brutality. The Gestapo's narrative is not only factual, it's a warning, one penned in blood, reminding us that the price of quiet is the rise of dictatorship. We remember not to glorify, but to never repeat. The Gestapo's cruelty shows how far humanity can fall under tyranny, but their victims' courage proves our power to resist. Never forget, silence empowers oppression. If history teaches one truth, it's this: unchecked power breeds horror. So what's your take?